Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Health and Wellness 360 with my beautiful wife, TFal, and myself, Chi. As we move along this show, just text in that, let us know exactly where you're dialing in from, where you're watching us from. If you're from Australia, from New York, from Dallas, Chicago, North Carolina. We're in North Carolina, so just let us know where you're dialing in from. And we'll move along this show. So welcome, everyone.
Welcome and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's our first live show this year. So today's show, thank you, Julian. Good morning. And today's show, we have a lot packed in there, and we are going to be talking about some really important topics today. So today we're going to be talking about how fab are your five. And you've seen us all these months we've been doing this show. We always have how fab are your five or how fab, and it really comes with a message, and we'll talk about that today. And so over this next 20, 30 minutes we have together, we're going to talk about how fab are your five, what are these five, why it's important to know these five, and what you can do to optimize your five: your blood pressure, your blood glucose, your cholesterol, your body mass index, and your waist circumference. So keep thinking about those five. But before we get started, let's introduce ourselves for some of you who may be joining us for the first time. My name is TFal. I am an infectious disease physician. I'm a professor of medicine. I am an author, a podcaster, and a wellness coach. And I'm the other half of TFal and Chi. I'm joined by my husband, Chi.
Yes, and I'm Chi, and I'm a health and wellness expert, and focusing on nutrition, mental health, and exercise physiology as well. So our mission and our vision with TFal and Chi is to empower you, your family, and your loved ones to be the very best versions of yourself, not like anyone else, but the best version of you, and you feeling your best self by giving you practical tips, of how to live that life and make it a lifestyle, and not just something you do because we have to go on vacation or we have to fit into a certain dress size, but a lifestyle for you and your family. This vision and mission has been part of us for so long because of the prevalence of chronic disease around, not just in America, but around the world today. And that's what drives our passion every single day, to try to make a difference, to try to teach you and provide you those tips so that you can actually teach your friends, your family, because it starts from one person and mushrooms. We want this message to metastasize across the whole country and across as many people as we can reach, right, honey?
Absolutely. And you brought up the issue around, thank you, Virginia, South Carolina, around generational health and really impacting not just ourselves, but the next generation.
Correct.
So a little bit of, why did we choose the five?
That's what I was going to ask you. You just stole my thunder there, right? So I was going to, can you share why? Because we wear this, clothes, and this is actually ours. We designed this ourselves because we try to figure out how best to send this message. So if you're wearing our merch or our swag anywhere in the world, someone looks at it and says, "Hey, do I know my numbers?" Right? So can you share with the audience, babe, why we chose this come five? Up with how fab and
the five.
Yeah, the five.
These five that we mentioned, and you can see and stuff. So why did we choose the five? And I'll tell you 5 reasons, because then we move on to I have a question for you. So these 5 we chose, your blood pressure, blood glucose, cholesterol, body mass index, and your waist circumference, for a couple of reasons. One, these conditions are driving a lot of chronic diseases in our communities, especially communities of color. They're causing decreases in our quality of life, increasing mortality. So blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol. I'm sure if we did a poll, everyone in this chat or in this group knows somebody dealing with diabetes or high blood pressure or high cholesterol, or combination. So very common, right? Second is the fact that by themselves, they cause a lot of issues like blood pressure by itself, but they also cause things that people don't think about. So when we think about kidney failure and blindness and amputations, diabetes is the biggest cause of those. So people, to help people, so these are conditions that cause problems on their own, but also cause problems because they're linked and cause other complications. The third reason we chose this 5 is because they're things you can measure very easily. Your blood pressure, your blood glucose, your waist circumference. You can get on the scale and get your body mass index. So 3 is that you can measure it by yourself.
Right, honey. Just before you move along, I was also going to share that, the idea that my wife knew that you can do this on your own.
Yes.
And it doesn't cost you much to actually know those numbers, right? It really doesn't.
Correct.
And it's so very critical to know them. Having a scale, we don't have to weigh ourselves every day. No, that's not what we're talking about. But the idea to understand where you stand along the continuum of health.
And what you need to do with that. Yes. And that's the 4th one. So right on point in terms of it's something that's easy to measure, but very objective. So these are numbers. So you know what the numbers are. You know what the goal should be. So you know what you're working towards. Sure. And you challenge yourself. And you're your own competition about moving along that continuum like we talked about. So measurable, objective, and you can track over time. And you can celebrate your success. And the 5th one is, we strongly believe that when you know these 5 and you make it a point of knowing your numbers and being active in your own health, you're going to be an active consumer of your own health. You're going to take things into your hand. If you're knowing those numbers, you're having discussions with your healthcare providers, you're making choices in terms of what you eat, you're actually getting your screenings done, you're getting your vaccinations done. That's an informed consumer, because we believe that you can drive your own health. And that's some of the reasons we chose these 5.
Is taking your power back.
Yes.
Period. Is taking your power back. There are things we can control, and there are things we know we can't. There are unfortunate accidents that may happen with our health and different things. Yes, that is true. But there are things we can control, and we need to make sure that those things we're keeping an eye on those things. If most of the reasons why we go to the doctor is driven by lifestyle. Over 80% of the reasons.
That was my question for you. Okay. So that's where we were going to go in that. Like, how do these conditions impact our quality of life, healthcare costs, hospitalizations? Because you also have a long history in healthcare and also kind of the consumer end and healthcare costs. Right. How do these conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, impact healthcare costs and the costs to us as individuals, our families, and productivity?
True. So thank you for that, honey. So in terms of the impact on our daily life, not just your life, but your pocketbook, the way you feel, move, and think, these conditions really, really play a huge role in your overall person. Right? So if we're not doing the right things with our health, eating the right foods, because nutrition is the biggest part of it. Nutrition is about 75% of who we are. Exercise is about 25%, right? So what you eat, what you put in your body, we're literally, just like they talk about, you are what you eat. And it is true. If you eat well, you're going to feel good, you're going to have clarity in thinking, and you're going to actually have hormones that actually allow you to be your best self. So being
no, go ahead.
The cost, in terms of cost, but let's go back to cost. In terms of, if you're managing yourself well and you're visiting your doctor as many times as you should, as recommended by the CDC, and you have exercise in place, your mental health, you have the good tribe around you, people that support you mentally, people that make you your best self, you are more likely to spend less than those who are not. I give you an example, diabetes. If I'm diabetic, right? Because we know that 6 out of 10 Americans today have one chronic condition.
One of these conditions.
6 out of 10. Think about it. So 60% of people watching us today have one of these, right? And 4 out of 10 have two or more. So you think about the impact, doctor visits, co-pays, hospitalizations, over and over and over again. If you're diabetic and you're actually managing your diabetic symptoms well, you're actually going to spend about $14,000 more than somebody who's not diabetic. And this is someone who's managing their symptoms well, not for $14,000 a year extra, right? Because they come with other comorbid conditions.
Correct.
Impact on the joints.
Heart disease.
Heart disease.
Stroke.
and a bunch
All
of
of
other
those
things
things,
as well.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't want, honey, as we keep talking about this, because I want you to jump in here, because I want you to talk about misconceptions as well, right?
Yeah.
About these conditions. But, so why don't you go ahead and take that?
You gave us a lot of cost initiatives, and
Yeah.
that, trillions of dollars spent every year on healthcare costs, right? And it impacts not just our health, but our productivity.
Right.
But thank you for asking that question around misconceptions.
Right.
And a couple of things that we see is that one is that sometimes you hear that people say, because I'm skinny or I'm not overweight, I have no medical problems. That's not true. If you don't check these numbers, you don't know, right? So being a certain weight doesn't protect you from not having this condition.
Did you guys hear that? It doesn't matter if you're skinny, if you feel that you're in good shape, if you don't know the numbers, skinny, fat, short, it doesn't matter. If you don't know the numbers, you're legally blind.
Correct.
You're walking in the dark.
Correct. And so that's the thing we tell people, I tell, ignorance is not bliss. We have to know these numbers. And that's why high blood pressure is called the silent killer. There are people who are a certain body weight, but are metabolically unwell. So again, it's important to know these numbers. Another thing we hear is that I can have my children eat anything, and then when I get to like 40 or 50, we're all going to be on meds anyway, so it doesn't matter. No, it matters. So that's a misconception. The third thing we hear quite a bit often is people feel like, well, once I have a condition, all I can do is take a pill. And this is what we talk about, taking your power back, because what you put into your body does matter. Working with your nutrition, there are a lot of things that are reversible. And so it's important to know that even somebody who has diabetes, a diabetes with an A1C of 12 is different from an A1C of 8 or 7. Complications are tied to control of your diabetes. So even when you have a medical condition, high blood pressure, diabetes, that there are things you can and should do with your nutrition and physical activity. And the last misconception, I want to bring that up, is sometimes we use a lot of, I have a touch of this, or I have a little bit of that. And when we do that, we really underestimate the impact of making a difference. So when people have pre-diabetes or stage 1 hypertension, they say, I have a little bit of sugar. I have a touch of sugar. When we do that, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to take things back. So pre-diabetes means pre-something. Right. If you don't do something at that point, you will develop diabetes, but there are things you can do to reverse that. So I want us to get out of if your sugar is not normal, that's the time, it's you act. You don't say, well, it's just a touch of something. Those are just some of the things that we see.
There was something you actually said in terms of you taking the pill to mitigate the condition. So today in America, we're prescribing over 4 billion in terms of scripts and spending about 4 trillion on healthcare. But
and the average person,
the conditions keep going up. So there is a problem there is a gap in that space, right? So we're spending a lot more on medication, right? We're spending a lot more on healthcare overall, but people are getting sicker. There's something wrong.
And younger people too. We talked about the data that's showing now that this generation of children under 20 are projected to have a shorter lifespan than their parents. Every decade with technology, people are supposed to have longer and longer lifespans.
Correct.
But this generation is projected to have a shorter lifespan because they're developing these conditions much earlier.
But why are they doing that? Because who is in charge of nutrition in the home, right? It's the adult. Whoever makes that choice. There's absolutely no reason why we can't have healthy choices on our kitchen island at home if we're the ones in charge of doing groceries. There's absolutely no reason to have the cookies and the baked goods on the counter or in the pantry if you can have bananas, oranges, mangoes, and fruit on the counter. We have to make that choice so that our children and those we have to take care of can actually have a longer and healthier life. It's as simple as that.
It is. And I know we're so passionate about that, and it comes through because generational health is so important. We talk about generational wealth a lot, but if we're spending all of that money in our retirement and pension, if we're actually alive, on healthcare costs, it impacts what we're able to leave for that generation and model things for them. So I was going to ask you a lot about what we can start to do today.
Sure.
Because now you brought up prescription medications, you brought on healthcare costs. The American lifestyle medicine is now saying, wow, in the doctor's offices, we need to start talking about nutrition and activity and telling people not to stop, tell people to stop smoking, and talking about sleep, all the things we talk about, because it's important in terms of preventing these conditions, but also optimizing them and getting them back. You can actually improve these things, and it's really important. So what are some of the things we can start to do? So we've talked about the first thing is knowing those numbers. Ignorance is not bliss. Check those numbers, make an appointment, go to an urgent care. Even at grocery stores, they have places. Check your blood pressure, get a tape measure, check your waist circumference, get on a scale. So know those numbers. Yeah. But then what can we start to do? You start. Sure. Let's start talking about.
My wife noted, first of all, you got to know your numbers. And another thing you can do is begin to learn exactly how to shop and shop well. If you go into a grocery store, all the sugars, the cakes, the cookies, avoid them. They're put there for a reason, because they know sugar is addictive. 70% plus of all the foods in grocery stores have added sugars in them.
We did 70%. An episode on reading food labels and looking at it. So go back and find that on added sugars, because that's why the trend in diabetes and all that.
There's a reason. Just think, when you leave this show today, you have to do grocery shopping this weekend. As soon as you go into the grocery store, it's all sugary drinks, cakes, cookies. There is a reason for that. You've got to take your power back. Look for produce. Look for greens. Look for vegetables. Look for fruits. Avoid the sugars. So eating well is very important. So we talk about EMTS. So you eat. So I'll go through that. So eating well is super important. Shop and shop wisely, right? No smoking, no soda. We are completely blank on those things, and we're very blunt about them because they do nothing but hurt you, right? So shop, eat well, fruits, vegetables, complex carbohydrates, complex sugars coming from fruits and vegetables, complex carbohydrates coming from things like sweet potatoes, things like, steel cut oats, and not the packaged oatmeal with sugar. That is literally junk food. You want oatmeal that you cook that doesn't have added sugar in it. And you can add blueberries and, apples,
whatever I did for sweetness.
To make it sweet. Then you want to move. Make sure you're moving. Make sure that movement could be taking walks, doing yoga, Tai Chi, dancing like no one's looking, right? And just doing things that, elevate your heart rate some, that just push you, right? So you want to make sure you're moving. Then you have to think about a purpose. You have to make sure you have a purpose in life, something you wake up every day to want to do that's bigger than you and yourself, right? And every time we have that purpose, something we can do to give back. That is why my wife and I were so challenged and we're so passionate about what we do. Every day we're thinking, how can we continue to change the lives of people around the world? We don't care if it's one person or it's two people or it's 5 million people. Our job is to make sure that we're reaching as many people as possible every single day, because we know that somebody will be touched and can change someone else's life. And that means a lot to us. The last one is sleep, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What is about sleep? It's got to be restorative. It's got to be sufficient. Can you say a couple of words about sleep?
Yeah. No, I mean, that is when our body repairs and renews. You need to get 7 to 9 hours on average. And it's when your blood pressure is regulated, your memories are made, your productivity. And sleep is now something that has been underestimated as a vital part of our wellness. It is so important for our mental health. And a lot of things are driven around depression, anxiety, and sleep disturbance. So sleep is very important. And like you said, when you start to talk about shopping wisely and having that grocery list, really making sure that you are intentional through all of these things we talked about.
Sure.
Planning, around what you have in your home, around when you make sure you make time to move, challenge yourself. All of these things that we talked about are things that you can improve on every day. This is what I did. How many steps did I do? Well, tomorrow, let me add another 100. And just having a plan and making it. And when you have that purpose, it helps. that you know that this is beyond just me and what I'm doing, and that allows you to make those choices every day. And shopping wisely. And you'll get sometimes people put in chats and say, well, I can't afford it. I said, shopping what is in season. So whatever fruits and veggies are in season are usually cheaper. Get those. Frozen, right? Frozen veggies, frozen fruits, they're just as fine. So we have to like really be intentional on doing these things, because nutrition is such a big part of lifestyle management.
Thank you for bringing that up, honey. And I also wanted to mention there is no one pill out there. There is no one juice out there.
Yes.
In terms of what you can buy to do that, but you can juice at home. We encourage that because we do that as well. And remember, juicing is different from smoothie making. Very different. If it's in a blender, you're making a smoothie, right? If it's in a juicer, you're juicing because it removes pulp. The pulp is 25%. The juice you drink is soluble fiber. It's about 75% of that, right? And you still get all the nutrients you need, right? Greens. So your juices, when you juice in, it shouldn't have any kind of milk or dairy product. When it has milk or dairy product, you're literally making a smoothie with bananas and all that, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure you're eating well. You're doing it. There's no pill out there. We encourage people to understand that what you do, like your regular shopping, can get you to your optimal health.
Correct.
There's no need to go buy any bottle of something or someone's peddling something. No, you shop wisely. You can be your best self.
You can. And that's what we're doing around generational health, that drink water. You don't have to buy a person's special water with anything. No. Get water, drink water, and make it intentional. Start small and build on it, right? Yeah. When you start small and build on it, you're more likely to succeed. So don't, radical sometimes people do, and then the last 2 days. But when you have your intention and purpose, you can actually do it. And somebody put nutrition is affordable. Absolutely. Yeah. Short term, it's actually, we have data. It shows that when you cook and you buy your own stuff, it's actually less expensive than fast food. Sometimes people think fast food. No, it's less expensive in the short term, and definitely less expensive in the long term in terms of how much you're going to be spending on doctor visits, on your productivity. And yes, we've said that before. You may not come from a healthy family, but a healthy family can come from you. And that's one of those misconceptions. Like, everybody in my family has diabetes or high blood pressure at 40. I have to have that. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can change that. And the next generation are watching us. So it's never too late and it's never too early. Right. So starting to build those building blocks for the children and also for ourselves and making it intentional.
And we know also that people who are dealing with challenges, right? Yes. That things that run in our blood and through generations, right? We know that.
All those things,
and we sympathize with that. But what we're trying to, push here is that you know your numbers and doing activities that mitigate and will help your current state.
Correct.
To get to your best state.
Correct.
Right? That's what we want to do.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
that the healthiest version of you, right? Today. So that when you leave this show, you're looking at your wellness, you're looking at getting your numbers, and say, how can I be a healthier version of me, of TFal, of Chi, of you? The healthier version of this. So write those down. How far by your 5?
For putting that up. And as you're watching this show, in order to be part of this fight and this, this mission, we encourage you to share our message with as many of your friends and family as possible, so they can hear this message. It's not just for you; it's for as many people as possible, so you can help other people. Because we know you're doing other things to, get to this point. So as we move along, because we have about 6 minutes in this show, this show runs so quickly. So, babe, I want to ask you, in terms of Make It Make Sense segment.
Make it make sense.
Right. So what numbers indicate pre-diabetes? Because pre-diabetes is very different from being a diabetic, right?
Correct.
So what are the numbers our audience should know
for pre-diabetes.
Can you share that real quick?
Sure.
We have about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, and be very quick. And thank you, producer, for putting what your 5 should be. His producer is putting what your goals should be for the 5 that we talked about. Pre-diabetes, 88 million Americans dealing with pre-diabetes. That's 1 in 3, and many of them don't even know. So for pre-diabetes, the numbers you need to know are that if your blood sugar is between 100 and 125 fasting, that is pre-diabetes. Not a touch or something, a little something. That is a time where if you're told your numbers are between 100 and 125, it's a time to act on your nutrition, on your lifestyle, so that you don't become diabetic, because that's the trend it's going. Or if you have an A1C that is between 5.7 and 6.4, because you want your A1C to be less than 5.7. So if your A1C is not normal, but it's not diabetic yet, so 5.7 to 6.4, or your blood sugar fasting is between 100 and 125, that is pre-diabetes. And that is a wake-up call, a warning to do something with your nutrition, with your exercise, so that you do not become diabetic, because 88 million people already living with pre-diabetes. So that is making make sense.
Yeah, and do not accept that because somebody had it in your family,
you have to
had it, mom, no, do not accept that. Even if you
have pre-diabetes,
you can change. You can change that. You can change the trend, right? You can be the change. Just be that pivot in the family. Assuming someone is already in the family, you can work as hard as you can to begin to change those things, so that those who come in after you can live a healthier life, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and also, we talked about you sharing this message. Share it after the show. Share it with as many people as possible as well. We need to all do this together, and this impacts more so Black and brown families.
Absolutely.
You know, so we have to do our part. Each and every one of us have to do our part to change this trajectory.
We do.
Right?
For every one of these conditions, the prevalence or in our communities is much higher. For high blood pressure, for diabetes, for high cholesterol, the number of amputations in our communities, kidney failure. Diabetes is the number one cause of kidney failure, adult blindness, and amputations in the US. And sometimes we don't connect that. They're like, this person had kidney failure, but it's years of untreated diabetes or years of untreated high blood pressure. So knowing these numbers allows you, every time you get your numbers checked, you know, you go into the office, they check it, ask what is it, write it down, and see what you need to do.
Yeah. And I was also going to share something. You know, when we watch television every day, or even, you know, social media, why do we think that all you see is, you know, commercials about medication?
Yeah.
Because our culture is driven that way, just to manage disease. We want to prevent disease, right?
Yes.
You never see commercials about eat more bananas, eat vegetables. No, you never do that.
You can't make money of those.
You can't make money from that.
Yeah.
And that is the truth. That is just
lifestyle.
You know, the truth about it.
Yeah.
So we are here to close that gap, to make sure you have the education you need. But where can you find us, and how can you support us? Babe, can you share that?
Yes, you can find us at TFalchi.com, TFalandchi.com. On our website, we do wellness coaching. You can reach out to us. We have wellness coaching. We have other events. You can find us at TFal Chi. We have in our store, our merchandise. We have t-shirts, we have hoodies, we have beanies, all supporting that message, promoting the message. Someone sees that and says, oh my gosh, what is my blood pressure? What is my blood glucose? If you've had yours checked, talk to somebody you care about knowing their numbers. And when you know your numbers, you know the goal, you see how far you are from your goal. Because our producer Ellis has put all of those numbers in the chat about what your goal should be. And that's where you should be. Know your numbers first, know your numbers, and know how to get there. Working with your primary care provider, working with what you put into your body to get there.
Or you can work with us.
Yes.
Hey, we do coaching, we do one-on-one coaching, we do, you know, we'll visit and do
a pantry
check with you, a virtual pantry check with you. So you can sign up on our website and consult with us, and we'll come to your home and check the pantry, check the refrigerator, make sure you're eating well. But we have about maybe 30, 40 seconds to go here. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
There, right?
And just understand, like we believe that fabulous begins on the inside. So when we say how fab are your numbers? Because fabulous begins on the inside, what you put into your body, how your mind is thinking, and what your numbers are. These are numbers that you know you're working on, and you're doing things to optimize that. You can do this. And we're here to empower you to be the very best and healthiest version of you.
And thank you to you guys. You guys are the best. We can't do this show without you. So watch us, follow us, social media. Come back in a few weeks again. We'll be here to do it.
I know you're five. Know your five. You've got this.
Buy this
yes, and be part of the message. Thank you, and thank you to our producer.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend and shop wisely.